Hello, darlings, and welcome to Care Off Book. It's me, Care Darling, and mama, let me tell you, I went to go see Joker 2 and I got thoughts, and I'm ready to talk about it. I was so excited to see Joker 2. I really thought I was going to love it, but if I said I did, I'd only be fooling myself. Honestly, it was like watching a fantasy I didn't ask for.
No, I don't want that.
So, just a heads up, there will be spoilers. I will be talking about the whole story. So, if you want to go watch the movie first, then come here and we can talk about it. Fabulous. If someone came to me and was like, "Oh, do you recommend the Joker 2 movie?" I would actually say, not really, and wait till it's streaming and then go watch it. When I first saw the trailer for Joker 2, I was pumped. Adding Lady Gaga as the new Harley Quinn and taking the whole movie in a musical direction, that had me intrigued. Now, if you haven't seen Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, here's the deal. The movie dives deep into Arthur's descent into madness as he faces rejection, poverty, and a society that just doesn't care. Over time, you watch Arthur's fragile mind unravel until he fully embraces the chaos of becoming the Joker, a symbol of anarchy. As he spirals deeper into delusion, you think you know when Arthur is fantasizing versus what's real, until you realize his reality is also pretty warped. Like when we thought he had a relationship with his neighbor, only to find out it was all in his head, or the moment he's convinced that Thomas Wayne is his father. Let's also remember that when Joker came out, Joaquin Phoenix actually won an Oscar for that role. So, going into Joker 2, I was ready to dive back into that psychological mess, trying to untangle what was real versus Arthur's delusions, but honestly, none of that happened. The movie kicked off with promise, though. They started with this cartoon of Arthur battling his own shadow, kind of symbolic of his dark side re emerging, reminding us of his past, like when he murdered the talk show host Murray. The cartoon ends with Joker beaten by the police and he says, "Knock, knock." It felt like the perfect setup, but then, well, it didn't quite deliver what I was hoping for. Speaking of clever, my husband was clever because once that line came out of the Joker on the floor saying knock knock and beaten up, my husband was like, "Oh, that's smart because the next line you say is who's there." So is this a question of who's really there, Arthur or the Joker? We find Arthur locked up in an insane asylum right off the bat. It feels like we're playing catch up. He's on trial and we're left to piece it all together. Then we meet Lee Quinzel, who's also a patient in the psych ward for burning down her parents' house. So yeah, she's got her own baggage. Arthur, after some good behavior, gets permission to join a singing class, and this is where things really start to shift. Lee and Arthur start to bond, and we start to see that almost like a love language, singing is what is bonding them.
Sing hallelujah, come on, get happy. Get ready for the judgment day.
And after watching the movie musical The Bandwagon, they begin to see themselves as the leading man and lady in their own little musical fantasy world. I know, this is up my alley. This is everything that I was like, yes, I cannot wait for this. We know Lady Gaga is a performer, and I do have to say Joaquin Phoenix does a great job. And there was an interview I watched where Lady Gaga was saying, we need to record live. Like when we sing, it should be live. And of course, Joaquin Phoenix is like, that's easy for you to say, girl, because I was so glad that she pushed that because I do think that Joaquin has qualities of musical theater in him, and some of it was a hit, but okay, well, I'll get into that. Ugh. Some of the musical numbers works, but then they sprinkled in these little musical moments that just didn't need to be there. I mean, dare I say it? They could have cut a few of those scenes that didn't push the story forward, and maybe that's because the story itself wasn't all that strong to begin with. What I felt was so repetitive in this movie musical was they were trying to evoke this raw emotion where they're really close, and so when they sing like this. And to me, I was like, that worked in some parts, but because it happened so many times, I was just like, what in the world is going on? But let me tell you, the big numbers, ooh, so well done. As far as Joaquin Phoenix, because listen, Lady Gaga, we know she can perform. Like, she's so good. But this isn't Lady Gaga performing. This is Lee Quinzel putting herself in this fantasy world, right? But as far as Joaquin Phoenix, his skills going into it, I thought he did a great job when he did the Stevie Wonder songs, For Once in My Life. That, when you think of musical theater, there's a want song, right? There's a song of purpose and what we're following. And I thought that was an excellent choice for Arthur to sing at that time, because this is when his world is changing and what he's striving for, and like the goal to get out, to be with Lee. I keep wanting to say Harley, to be with her and to, allow himself to be this Joker. Things did pick up when we got to the courtroom scene, but by the end, I was left so disappointed. I kept waiting for that big reality twist, the one where everything clicks, but it never came. Instead, I was left with more questions. At one point, we find out that Lee signed herself in the psych ward and could leave anytime. She has visitations to see Arthur whenever she wants, which didn't make any sense. I was convinced we discovered that she wasn't a patient at all, but Arthur's therapist, and that he had imagined everything. I'm not gonna lie, I did feel like a crazy person in the theater, because then I'm looking at, okay, what are the symbols? What are the signs? And one of the things was whenever there was light. So whenever a warm light started to come on to Arthur, whether it was in the fantasy world or in his reality, whenever I saw the light start to shine on him, I was like, okay, this is the spotlight. This is when he starts feeling like the Joker is coming out, and this is his persona. Another one was the amount of smoking. Now, my husband sent a thing as far as the symbol of smoking could mean a sense of confusion. But I just felt that every time he gets a cigarette or has the ability to start smoking, he starts being more cavalier, as his attorney is pointing out, like, maybe don't smoke in front of everyone, because it's unlocking him, becoming the Joker and things like that. And there's even a scene with him and Lee where he blows smoke in her mouth and she kind of sucks it in. So it's this sense of the Joker and her connecting. That's what I thought was going on. So here I was in the theater being like, aha, here it comes. We're going to realize that she's really his therapist and whatever. But no, instead, Arthur, in front of everybody in the courtroom, says he's not really the Joker, that it was all an act. And oh my goodness, Lee does not like that, and she loses it. It's like he shattered a fantasy, and she tries to stay in the fantasy by continue to sing. He asks her to stop, but she doesn't. It felt like she was trying to take him back to when they first met, but he's moved on as Arthur and not the Joker. And that moment just felt flat. I do wonder if there were scenes that were cut, because even when we see that Lee is done with Arthur, because he's Arthur, not the Joker anymore, she cuts her hair, she's going through this distress, but then we didn't really see her cut her hair. We didn't see her necessarily go through all of those emotions, except for a quick clip with her and a gun. So I guess showing her being suicide, I don't know, I found myself so confused. And like I said, I was so on this bandwagon of like, oh my gosh, the bandwagon. That was the musical they were watching. Okay, maybe they're making fun of me. Oh my gosh. The point is that I felt like there were clues through the movie as far as who is he, Arthur or the Joker, and the fact that I honestly thought like Harley Quinn wasn't even real in his fantasies at all, and that we were going to find out that he doesn't really have a crowd cheering for him whenever he goes to court, and he doesn't that she's a professional working to help him and not, a patient and whatever. Apparently, I didn't get the memo. The director said, for those who follow the comic book will be disappointed to realize that the Harley Quinn story isn't the same as in the comic books. And a clue that I thought was pointing to this was they showed it twice, because yes, it's Warner Brothers, so they're showing Warner Brother cartoons sometimes. and it's showing Pepe Le Pew. Now, if you aren't familiar, Pepe Le Pew is a skunk, and the cartoon is like a cat always goes through something where, you know, a white stripe is painted on her. So then he thinks she's a lady skunk, and then he's just so enamored and in love with her and keeps following her, and she's like not interested. So I thought that's what it was going to be, is the Joker following someone thinking that this is true love, only to find out there was never love in the first place. It was all an illusion. Now, my husband brought up it could have been reverse, where it's actually Lee chasing the Joker, thinking it was all of this, that once he's painted, just like the cat is painted, then that's her running after this love that doesn't exist. See what I mean? Where it's like, was this symbolism on purpose, or was I trying to make a thing happen that wasn't a thing? I guess what was supposed to be the twist is that Arthur gets killed by another inmate who then cuts his own face into a smile. So maybe the real twist is that Arthur wasn't the true Joker all along, but the other guy will be. You see what I mean? It just wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be. I feel like I need closure. There's a lot. I mean, we were watching Arthur and Lee this whole time, and then this inmate came in. And so I guess everything, the cartoon, the knock knock jokes, like all of this stuff, I'm like, did that even matter at all when watching this movie and seeing his story? And maybe it's supposed to be this is the true origin story of the Joker. It's just a figure, but it's more about Arthur, the man. I don't know. I have a lot to like think about, and I'm confused, and I don't like this feeling. So if you've seen the movie, what were your thoughts? I would love to hear it. Let's chat in the comments, please, because clearly I need help with this. Anyways, darlings, if you love musicals and Disney and performances, don't forget to like and subscribe, because I love talking about these kind of things. Oh yeah, and don't forget to put on a happy face and take care, darling.